must have been a fake baby bump, visually collapsed as she sat down.
$1.3 million is alleged that Beyonce and Jay-Z, the Carters, paid this hospital to have the right.
Beyonce couldn't get pregnant, not naturally. What I do know is this. Beyonce got on that stage with that fake baby bump. It was lined up with the same timing of where Cathy White would have been in her second trimester. The timeline of when she delivered Blue Ivy lines up almost perfect with the timeline of when Cathy White would have delivered. We all know that Blue Ivy came from a surrogate. They shut that hospital down like a president had just been. And parents who had just had children themselves weren't even allowed to see their own kids for 24 hours because of the security that was locking that whole thing down.
It turns out the whispers might have been true all along. People are saying that Blue Ivy could have actually been the baby Jay-Z's late mistress Cathy White was carrying when she passed away. That theory had been floating in the streets for years, but it really exploded once Jaguar Wright came forward, pointing the finger straight at Beyonce, accusing her of playing a role in Cathy's death. The claims got even wilder when folks started suggesting that not only was Cathy allegedly taken out, but so was the unborn child. And that child somehow ended up being Blue Ivy. The story goes that Beyonce pretended to be pregnant at the exact same time Cathy was carrying the baby. Then, right after Cathy's tragic passing, Bey suddenly hit the blogs with her baby bump reveal and later news of her miracle birth. People online swear the timeline looks way too suspicious. And if you think that's far-fetched, here's where it gets even crazier. Comedian Katt Williams jumped into the mix and started co-signing Jaguar's claims. Nobody expected him to back this up, but he doubled down, saying there's truth behind the rumors, which left fans even more stunned. For a while, the whole drama was swept under the rug. Folks moved on until last year when Beyonce dropped her album Cowboy Carter. The project had a track titled Daughter, and that song instantly sent conspiracy theories flying all over again. Fans claimed the lyrics sounded like a confession, as if Beyonce was admitting to wiping out both the mistress and the unborn child. The track's title itself, Daughter, was viewed as a direct nod to Blue Ivy, who people now speculate was the child Cathy carried before her untimely death. The lyrics gave people chills. Bey sang lines like, "Your body laid out on these filthy floors. Your bloodstains on my custom couture." Bathroom attendant said she was a big fan. "I really tried to stay cool, but your arrogance disturbed my solitude." Fans dissected every single word, claiming it matched Jaguar's story point for point. The alleged symbolism of betrayal, jealousy, and blood left the internet in shock. Now the question everyone's asking is, was Daughter just an artistic metaphor, or was it Beyonce's way of hiding the truth in plain sight? One thing's for sure, this theory refuses to die, and with every new detail, it only gets more scandalous. "Now I ripped your dress and you're all black and blue, look what you made me do." That line sent chills through listeners. Beyonce's lyrics painted such a violent personal picture that many refused to believe it was just art. Some brushed it off as another dark metaphor, but others swore the words were way too specific, like she was exposing something real. The bars about not being like her father, but colder than Titanic water, only fueled suspicions. Fans said the pain and anger in her voice didn't sound fictional at all. It sounded like a confession hiding in plain sight. Now here's where the rabbit hole gets deep. When Cathy White passed, the official report claimed she died from a brain aneurysm. But as time passed, folks started putting the pieces together, and suddenly the story wasn't sitting right. Let's take it back to August 28, 2011, the MTV VMAs. That night, Beyonce revealed her pregnancy to the world in the most dramatic fashion, rubbing her belly on stage while cameras flashed. The world celebrated. But behind the scenes, another timeline was unfolding. Beyonce supposedly gave birth to Blue Ivy on January 7, 2012. Meanwhile, whispers were spreading that Cathy, who was also allegedly pregnant by Jay, had been found dead in her home just days before Bey's due date. The timing was too tight, too suspicious, and people couldn't ignore the overlap. How could one woman be expecting Jay's child, then suddenly vanish right before Beyonce announces her miracle baby? The math wasn't adding up. Even now, die-hard conspiracy theorists insist Beyonce was never really pregnant at all. They believe Blue was born through surrogacy, with Cathy being the one carrying the child. And here's the kicker. They're not talking about just any surrogacy, but gestational surrogacy. That's when the surrogate carries the embryo but isn't biologically related to the baby. The egg and sperm come from the intended parents, in this case, Beyonce and Jay-Z, while the surrogate simply carries the child to term. If that's true, it means Blue Ivy could still be genetically linked to Bey and Jay. But the person who carried her was Cathy White herself. Fans say that explains the bizarre pregnancy rumors, the odd footage of Bey's folding baby bump, and the sudden secrecy surrounding Blue's birth. Was Cathy really just a victim of a tragic health condition, or was she silenced to cover up the most high-profile surrogacy scandal in music history? The pieces are messy, but every time someone revisits the timeline, the story gets darker and the suspicion grows louder. People say this explains why Blue Ivy looks so much like both Beyonce and Jay, even though so many still insist Bey never actually carried her. The biggest piece of evidence that fuels this rumor is that infamous clip. Beyonce sitting down during an interview and her baby bump seemingly folding in on itself.
Must have been a fake baby bump visually collapsed as she sat down. I admit, that did look weird, but maybe it was a weird camera angle, or maybe she wears extra padding to keep her due date a secret. And yes, maybe Beyonce isn't actually pregnant.
Fans replayed that moment millions of times, swearing it was proof that the pregnancy was staged with a prosthetic belly. From then on, the internet never let it go. But the whispers don't stop at fake pregnancies. Word on the street is that Beyonce allegedly made sure Cathy was gone after the baby was born because she couldn't risk Cathy sliding back into Jay's bed. The theory goes even deeper. If Cathy lived, she could have exposed everything. The secret surrogacy, the affair, and the timeline that never made sense. Cutting her out of the picture erased the threat once and for all. And then there's the hospital story. Reports claim Bey and Jay dropped over $1.3 million to lock down the entire floor of Lenox Hill Hospital in New York when Blue Ivy was born. Regular patients were allegedly kicked out, families turned away, and security stationed everywhere. People couldn't help but ask, was all that really necessary for privacy? Or was it a way to make sure nobody caught wind of what was really going down that night? The secrecy had people raising eyebrows then, and it still does now. Fans also point to Beyonce's darker lyrics that read like twisted poetry. In her track, Anger, she raps about doing anything to keep her man, even wearing the skin and hair of her husband's dead mistress if it meant keeping him tied to her forever.
If it's what you truly want, I can wear her skin over mine, her hair over mine, her hands as gloves, her teeth as confetti, her scalp a cap, her sternum my bedazzled cane. We can pose for a photograph, all three of us, immortalized. You and your perfect girl.
Chilling stuff. Listeners couldn't help but connect those words back to Cathy, especially with the timing of her mysterious death. And just when you think it's all conspiracy theories, there's this bombshell. A since-deleted article from Hollywood Street King claimed one of the officers who worked on Cathy White's case told them straight up, it wasn't a brain aneurysm. They allegedly classified her death as a homicide. The article read, yesterday, I got the news that Cathy Michelle White had suddenly passed away. But the officer reportedly insisted there was more to the story and that it wasn't natural at all. If that's true, then Beyonce's lyrics, the pregnancy rumors, and the hospital lockdown all start looking way less like random coincidences and way more like a cover-up that's been hiding in plain sight for over a decade. So I started digging, and what I found blew the lid off the whole story. Turns out Cathy White did not officially die from a brain aneurysm like the headlines claimed. According to an NYPD detective, the true cause of death was uncertain. He even said flat out, the case was being treated as suspicious. That alone sent alarm bells ringing. The details are chilling. A 911 call came in from an apartment on West 19th Street in Manhattan saying Cathy was suddenly sick. Paramedics rushed her to Beth Israel Hospital, but tragically, she didn't make it. At the time, people were already whispering that it was too early to label it an aneurysm. The detective admitted an autopsy and toxicology tests were needed, and that it could take up to 2 weeks to know the truth. His words hinted at something darker, saying it looked like she might have been poisoned. Now here's where it gets wild. Just 2 weeks before her sudden passing, Cathy had been contacted by a major tabloid digging into her alleged affair with Jay-Z. She didn't spill too much at first, but insiders claim she later phoned Jay himself, warning him that she was ready to go public for the right price. In other words, she was ready to cash in and expose everything. And then, like clockwork, just a little more than 48 hours after Beyonce's big pregnancy reveal at the VMAs, Cathy mysteriously turns up dead. The timing is just too suspicious for most people to ignore.
She actually died screaming, and the Carters are responsible. But one of them is just a little more responsible than the other. Question is, did Sean Carter delete his mistress, his pregnant mistress, because his wife was jealous? Or could it be possible that maybe his wife's temper is just a little worse than most people think? And maybe he just had to clean it up to protect the brand, see? I mean, I'm just speculating.
But Jaguar Wright wasn't finished stirring the pot. She doubled down in another interview, throwing gasoline on the fire. This time, she didn't just accuse Beyonce of faking her pregnancy. She went all the way, claiming Bey actually stole Cathy's unborn child. Jaguar painted a sinister picture, saying Blue Ivy was the baby Cathy had been carrying before she was taken out. According to her, Bey staged the entire pregnancy while Cathy quietly vanished from the picture. And let's not forget, Jaguar swore that Beyonce wasn't just covering up a scandal, but fighting to secure her position as Jay's only queen.
Think about Claudia Jordan right now. Claudia Jordan don't ever mention my mother name. She mentioned it yesterday. Talking about why people are afraid to come forward. You mean like you? You was Diddy girl. Corey was Jay-Z girl. Why don't you claim your friend? Claudia.
So, Jack, when you say...
When I say Corey, I'm talking about Cathy White.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was about to ask.
Jay-Z's pregnant mistress,
yeah,
who died of an imaginary fucking aneurysm. Just like the woman who was best friends with Kim and Kimura, who wrote the book Bling and died as soon as it made the bestsellers list.
If Cathy had lived, she could have destroyed everything. The marriage, the brand, and Bey's carefully crafted image as the perfect mother. Eliminating Cathy meant eliminating the threat once and for all. When you line up the autopsy delays, the toxicology suspicions, the tabloid leaks, and the sudden death right after that pregnancy reveal, it doesn't just look suspicious. It looks like the makings of one of the darkest cover-ups in music history.
Who the f*** was these people supposed to go to? You can't go to the boss because the boss is f***ing you. And the boss's boss don't get no f***. Can't go to the authorities. They're all bought and paid for. You could try to get a special prosecutor, but they'll just pay somebody to reassign him to another case. Where the f*** you go when you get f***ed over by the industry? Nowhere. That's where. You go nowhere. Which is where people like me step in. You right, I go to Diddy parties to walk mother out, because ain't nobody stopping me when I come. You Sean.
Hey, man.
Weirdo. Now you know what you got in your head, that Neuralink. You'll never outthink me, ever. All I do is frustrate you in AI. You can't quantify me. You can't even control your wife. You gonna handle a bitch like me. You can't even control that goofy bitch. You should have did a better job. Maybe she wouldn't have had to lose her mind on Cathy. Cause you ain't protecting you. You're protecting her. Wonder why?
And here's where it gets even messier. Popular journalist Liz Crokin also pointed the finger straight at Jay-Z, accusing him of being tied to Cathy White's death. According to Liz, she was gearing up for a bombshell exclusive with Cathy, an interview where Cathy was ready to air out her affair with Jay. But before it could happen, Cathy was gone. The timing left people shook, wondering if that interview was the very reason she never lived to tell her side of the story. Liz didn't hold back. She blasted Jay online, writing things like, "When Kanye West says Jay-Z has murder, I believe he's talking about the people who took out Cathy White. I was the reporter who talked to your alleged mistress right before she died, and then my work was deleted. I know everything. I know what you did. Go F yourself. Your time is coming. Maybe you and Diddy can share a prison cell together." She didn't stop there, adding, "Justice is coming. Only a matter of time before spirit cooking Jay-Z is exposed like Diddy. Kanye said it first. Jay's evil to the core. I pray there will be justice for Cathy White. One day, the false idols will continue to fall. Mark my words." Those words hit hard, especially because Liz isn't some random blogger. She's known for chasing stories tied to powerful names. If she's saying Jay's tied to Cathy's death, that's enough to keep the rumor alive forever. Now, when it comes to Katt Williams, people say the only reason he hasn't fully gone public blasting Jay and Bey is because he knows they play dirty when it comes to lawsuits. Word is, he saw how they tried to silence Jaguar Wright after she spoke out on Piers Morgan's show, and he doesn't want that same smoke. But behind the scenes, insiders claim Katt still believes Blue Ivy isn't Beyonce's biological child, and plenty of fans back him up. People online are ruthless with the receipts. One comment read, "If Blue was born January 7th, then when Beyonce announced she was pregnant, she would have only been about 4 months along. No way her stomach should have looked that big on the VMAS stage." Another person added, "I remember reading all about this back in 2017 with that deflated baby bump. Didn't want to believe it, had to erase it from my feed, and here we are again." The deeper you look, the harder it is to ignore how many voices, journalists, celebrities, and fans are lining up with the same suspicion. Something about this whole story just doesn't sit right, and people aren't letting it go. What really keeps this whole story alive isn't just the rumors themselves, it's the way the music industry and the fans keep connecting dots years later. Every time Beyonce drops an album or performs live, people start dissecting the lyrics, the visuals, even her body language, searching for hidden clues. Some call it paranoia, but others believe she's been confessing all along through her art. And when Jaguar Wright, Katt Williams, or Liz Crokin speak up, it only reignites the fire. One thing folks can't stop pointing out is how conveniently quiet major outlets have been about Cathy White. Despite the internet buzzing with conspiracy threads and TikToks racking up millions of views, mainstream media rarely touches the story. Fans think that silence speaks volumes, claiming Beyonce and Jay-Z's influence is so powerful that even journalists are too scared to cover it. After all, if Liz Crokin's work really got deleted right after Cathy's death, who else might have been pressured to stay quiet? And then there's the eerie way Cathy's name resurfaces every couple of years like a ghost haunting the Carters. Whenever Bey does a pregnancy reveal or Jay gets tied up in new scandals, people drag Cathy back into the conversation. Her death has become a kind of unsolved mystery the public won't forget, no matter how much time passes. The suspicion doesn't fade, it multiplies. Even Blue Ivy herself gets pulled into it, which makes things even more complicated. Some fans argue that Blue is living proof of the story, pointing to her resemblance to both Jay and Bey, but still swearing the pregnancy never happened. Others go as far as analyzing Blue's early photos, comparing them to Cathy, and saying the truth is written all over her face. It's wild how far people will go when they believe a secret's been buried. At the end of the day, the unanswered questions are what keep this rumor alive. Why did Cathy die under such strange circumstances? Why was her death labeled suspicious but then brushed off? And why do Beyonce's own lyrics seem to line up so closely with the timeline? Until those questions get answers, the whispers will never stop. And the legend of Cathy White will always shadow the Carter empire. At this point, the story has spiraled into one of the darkest, most persistent rumors in hip-hop history. From the mysterious timing of Cathy White's death, to Beyonce's controversial baby bump, to the eerie lyrics that sound more like confessions than art, every layer just adds more fuel to the fire. Industry insiders whisper about it. Journalists like Liz Crokin swear they were silenced. and celebs like Jaguar Wright and Katt Williams keep throwing shade that points straight back at the Carters. It's no wonder fans can't let it go. What makes this whole situation even more haunting is how it never fully disappears. Every few years, the story gets dragged back into the spotlight, whether it's because of a new Beyonce project, a resurfaced interview, or even a random TikTok that goes viral. People just don't believe the official version of events, and until every question is answered, the speculation will keep growing louder. Even Blue Ivy, completely innocent in all this, has been pulled into the storm. Some fans see her as the living key to the mystery, while others argue the entire conspiracy is built on coincidence. But whether you believe the theories or not, the fact remains. Cathy White's death left behind way too many unanswered questions. And with lyrics, timelines, and insider testimonies lining up a little too neatly, people are convinced there's more to the story than the world was ever meant to know. But now I want to know your thoughts. What do you think about Cathy's story and about Jaguar and Katt putting Bey and Jay in the hot seat for allegedly being behind it all? Do you really believe Blue Ivy was a surrogate baby, or is this just another conspiracy spiraling out of control? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. I'll be reading through them all. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown. Trust me, the next video you'll see on your screen is even messier. So click right over and keep up with all the celebrity drama. See you on the next one.